Lots happened since last video on the truck. I completely, here, let me show you from here. I completely knocked down the stock Ford track bar mount. That was like the cast thing here. I wanted to keep the top, like the stop for the bump stop, the stock one, but unfortunately I had to move this back and it would have interfered with that, so I just took the entire thing off. It makes it a lot easier if you take that stock with the bump stop top of it off. It makes it easier for you to cut that thing off. What I did was I didn't have enough patience, or like the all the bits for my Sawzall kept breaking, so I took out my plasma cutter and I just melted away all the welds from the top and the bottom, and then just hammered away at it, and it just knocked off. So I think what I'm going to be doing is either putting another bump stop here or using this as a bump stop, which would work fine here. But yeah, so that's what I did. Smoothed that out, tacked this on here. This is from Barnes 4-wheel drive, just the short offset track bar mount from Barnes. I actually, if I knew this ahead of time, I would have ordered a taller one, because once I installed this, I was able to have this higher, and if the bushing was here, the joint was up here, it'd be completely in line with the tie rod end. And same with this side. I also got this from Barnes. It's their outside frame track bar mount, and you can go inside frame too, but I really wanted to keep the tie rod, or the drag link, and the track bar exactly at the same length, or close. But what I did was I had this, it was too far out and it would have interfered with the spring that would have went right there. So I had it, at first I had it up here, it was at an angle, and the mount back there was also at an angle. It was like really far in that way, and it was also tilted because this thing was really far forward. So what I did was I cut it about 1 inch in, and then about 1/2 inch on this side, because my frames, obviously the frames sloped, or at an incline, and it's not perfectly level. So what I did was I kept this side the same, but I trimmed about 1/2 inch on this side, and that made it pretty much straight, lined up with that. And then that I was able to put that completely on the axle tube, so that helped a lot. And then I trimmed it back just so this can be forward a little bit. When this was all the way back, before I trimmed it, it was actually, the track bar was actually from this eye to the other eye was exactly the same length from this tie rod end to the other tie rod end, same length. So I wanted to keep that, but I also wanted to move this here. So what I did was I just cut 1 inch off, and then I pushed it in. That allowed me to move it farther back, lining it up with that, and it won't interfere with the spring anymore. There's about 1 inch clearance here, so I kind of got lucky with that one. You can go, if you want it easier, you can go with the inside mount, but other than that, so it doesn't interfere with the springs. Other than that, I am using the bottom hole, because that's the closest one to that, and I haven't measured it yet, but because the ground's uneven, I've tried measuring it. It's never been the same measurement, but just from looking at it, it looks very parallel, the drag link and the panhard bar. So this is why, if you guys are doing this, order the taller one on the other side and then order this one, because you can actually move that the joint up to here, and that'll put it in line, or even slightly higher than that. And then if you did the same on the other side, that'll bring the clearance up to here. And the tie rod actually clears the diff. It'll go right in front of it. The only thing is the panhard bar goes on top and it'll touch this. I have a video of the steering going on, and that was as high as I could get it, and I'm not very happy with that. I mean, for normal driving and like regular off-roading, it's not gonna do anything. If I kept it straight, it would have just, my bump stop would have been lower than normal, and I'm running bigger tires anyway, so it wouldn't even matter. But I wanted that clearance just so I can have more adjustability with the bump stop whenever. So I don't have a tube bender, but I did a thing. It may or may not be a little sketchy, but yeah, so it'll help a lot if you guys did order the taller axle side bracket. That'll raise it up directly to the you can see the focus, you can see that tie rod over there. It'll make it directly in line or even a little higher, just like this one. So that'll make the drag link go up a little bit, or the track bar go up a little bit, clearing that about 1 or 2 inches. But the route I'm taking is this. I already measured the length of everything, and everything should be lined up. What I did was I installed this on the frame side when this tube was straight. This is a 1.5 inch OD 1/4 inch wall, and I installed this side on the bracket on the frame side, and I pushed it up to see where it's gonna hit the frame, because I already know where the diff is gonna be. The diff is gonna be somewhere around here, and I think it's like this. No, it's like this. Yep. So the diff's gonna be somewhere around here, and then I needed to clear the oil pan too, and I'm gonna be gusseting this too. So I needed a little bit more clearance. This is just, these aren't even too much bends, so this on its own should be fine, just because it's not too steep of a bend. I'm gonna get maybe like 2 inches more clearance than before, but this on its own, it's not gonna bend. It's gonna be plenty strong enough. But I do want to gusset it just in case someone decides to hit me on that tire. So yep, all I did was I took an angle grinder, and I just cut like four or five slits on here, and then bent it, and then just took it up to the truck multiple times to measure it. And then obviously it's a little wavy if you're looking at it from a flat plane like this. So what I did was I put it on the ground, because the concrete's going to be flat, and then I checked if there was any gap. All I did was, this thing was kind of facing up like that, so all I did was I took the end into my rear wheel, because I'm not using this wheel if it gets damaged anyways, and I slipped it in there, and I just bent it back so that it's perfectly straight again. So now this should be perfectly straight. I'm gonna clean this up, clean up the ends, and then grind these down, and then just fill it with weld. Hopefully it won't warp on me when I'm doing this, but you never know. So yep, I'll have this done, and then I'm going to be using the square tubing right there that I have lying around. I'm just going to cut that and then gusset it a little bit. It's not going to be too big, it's just going to be just in line so that it makes it slightly more straight. I'm going to put it up on the truck, make sure everything's good. Before I do that though, I am going to have to cut this end so I can install it on the other side. The only problem with this, with bending the tube, you get more clearance, yes, but when you're doing when you're trying to align the axle, so the panhard bar keeps the axle centered from going side to side, and what it does when it's bent is now you have to take off one link, whichever side, or one joint, whichever side, to turn it, to either bring the axle this way or that way. When it's straight, all you have, which is what I was gonna go for originally, I have a reverse threaded end on that side and regular threaded or right hand thread and left hand thread. on each end, and then all you have to do is turn the actual tube, and it'll line it up whichever way you want to go, which is so much easier than doing this. I do have a plan of making this adjustable later. I mean, it's adjustable now, but making it easier to adjust later on by cutting this end and then putting a threaded end on here so that I can roll this side of the tube, and then this side is just going to stay in place. But for now, this is gonna have to do. All right, so I've got these two welded up, and the ends, both of the ends, welded all around, along with I drilled in 1/2 inch holes on the sides here and the bottom on both sides, and welded it around, plugged the welds, or plugged the holes. So 2 plug welds on each side. This should be strong enough to install now. So I'm just gonna put the bushings back in. I had this threaded in all the way to absorb some of the heat that was on this area, and don't worry about those. I missed a few. I missed like 2 little spots, but I had these threaded in so that the threads would absorb some of the heat and not warp this too much, and you know, it still threads in and out, so that's good. And then one more thing, these just arrived as well. These are all from Barnes 4-wheel drive. This tube insert. This is for my tie rod actually. When I got the tie rods, they came with these tube inserts, which is pretty beefy. But the problem with these are, this is the part that goes inside the tube, and it's probably about like a 32nd in width or in thickness. It's tapped in the front, but this is the part that slips inside the tube. So I don't really trust this thing being in the tube, especially when I plan on plug welding these as well. That's too thin of a wall, and it's just gonna rip right out if the main, like the beads up here ever break. It's not like the plug welds are gonna do anything holding this thing in with such a thin wall. So I got these. These are also fairly thin, but not as thin as those. As you can see, it's a lot thicker, about twice as thick, and they are also threaded all the way through. So what's going on is I'm gonna put a bead here, and then when it's all plug welded, this is thicker, so it's gonna absorb more heat, and it's gonna be harder to come off if anything ever breaks. And also the threads are basically gonna go inside the tube, as you can see, instead of just staying outside of the tube like this one would be, which is why I am replacing both of these ones. I don't know where the other one went, but replacing both of these ones with the Barnes 4-wheel drive tube inserts, and one's right hand and one's left hand threaded, obviously. But yep, so I'm just gonna install that. I'm not making this just yet. I am gonna make some cardboard cutouts to see if this will fit. I am gonna have to move the frame side bracket over just a little bit, because this thing is having a hard time fitting in. When I had the PVC pipe in, the pipe bends, so I didn't have it in accurately enough. So now that I have this steel pipe or tube made, I can actually accurately locate where the frame side bracket's gonna stay. This is at full droop. A lot's happened since I last recorded this. The track bar. I don't remember if I already showed you guys that I know I ground down. I showed you guys that I ground down the thing. I probably should have looked at the old video. It's been a few days. But I basically took the bracket that I had welded up here. I think I did show that on video, I'm not sure, but it was at an angle, like way over here. And what was happening was this track bar, since I had it at an angle and I had it at the lowest position because that was what matched the highest position on the axle side bracket, and for it to be parallel with the steering arm or drag link. And what happened was it was too low, and this axle, even with the tube bent like this axle still would be like down here where my finger is. That's where it would be. So actually no, it was like somewhere down here, but it's moved about like 4 inches higher. I got it to move up 4 inches higher. I did some sketchy shit. I did do cut this. I put it on that second to highest holes, so there was like 2 more down here that I just cut off. I did that because this thing comes outwards and it would have hit my spring when I have my spring up here. I did get my springs and I test fitted, and it would have just smacked the crap out of my spring as the suspension went up. So I had to cut that off. I might have to cut a little more off, I'm not too sure, but I did do that. And then I had to lower it again a bunch, so I went too far, and I should have put it on the third one, that like second to lowest one down here under this hole, and that would have had it to where I can move this all the way up so that would touch the frame. Unfortunately, I went too far and I removed too much metal, so not a good thing to do. I kept that hole. What I did was I just moved it down. I did a bunch of measuring. As you can see, I moved this thing like 7 to 10 different times yesterday. So yeah, I was not in the mood for recording all of that. But what I did was I moved it lower, so I had a piece of wood running from this side to the other side that was level, so I leveled it out. And then what I did was I just measured to the middle of that tie rod end, or the ball joint, or yeah, the drag link end right there. I measured to the middle of that from the ground, and I measured from the ground to the middle of that bolt right here for the track bar. I did that on both sides, and then I basically just took the distance between the track bar mounting location and the middle of the tie rod. And what I got was, I think originally I had like 3/4 on that side, or I think it was like 1 inch, and then here on this side it was like 1.5 inch, and I was not happy with that. So I'll show you the other side. The other side is really sketchy, but I am gonna brace it and everything, so it's gonna be fine, hopefully. Anyways, this side first. What I did was I lowered this down to where now the distance between this and that, it's almost perfectly parallel. Obviously I'm just eyeballing it. So what's happening is when I measured it, I grabbed the ruler here and I just lowered it down to match the other side, the axle side, track bar mount and the drag link end. And what I got was, I think it was like either 3/4 or 1/2 inch between this and that, so they're really close together now. And I did move this. I did also move this back. It was up here before, but I moved it back a little bit, and it should still clear the spring, I'm hoping. But anyways, so now this thing is pretty much almost in line with the drag link as well, or should be. Doing that, since I had to lower it, there was a big gaping hole about 1 inch over here. So what I did was I grabbed some where did I put it? I put it over here. Here it is. So I grabbed some 1/8 inch steel. I have these left because what I'm gonna do, I put the 1/8 inch steel on the inside of both sides on the bracket, so it's on the inside, and I have it tacked up right now to the frame and the bracket on both sides. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld it to the frame and then the bracket. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring this up here like that, and then weld that to the outside, and that's going to make it super strong. Along with that, I also have a 1/4 inch plate that I have no idea where I put, that I'm going to be putting up here like that, and then that'll weld more of the connect more of the bracket to the frame. So that side is like super, or is going to be super stiff. The problem right now is this side. As you can see, I had to put another hole on top of this, the already existing bracket. I know, super sketchy, dumb, but what I did, it does get super close to the frame, but I measured it and it should clear the frame. I'm not too sure, but I might have to cut like that little bit off, so when the spring compresses it'll clear that, but it should clear according to my calculations, which is not very good. But what I did, talk about this later, but I basically took same 1/4 inch plates that I was gonna weld on the other side. I took that, I drilled 2 5/8 holes on each, well, 1 5/8 holes on each of them, and I put them together up here, and then I did the I put another plate on the back here to kind of hoping to keep it stable. So I did weld this side and that side. Not very good. I'm not really good at welding vertically, or yeah, vertically. And then it's also super tight, so not really good spot to get into. I did also get the bottom there. It's also really bad because the gun was getting stuck like way out here, but it is penetrating, don't worry about it. And then I did also fully weld the bottom. Again, I was upside down, so I'm not very good at welding upside down. So what I did was, I see if you guys can see it from here. Can't see it from that hole, but since I couldn't, or I wasn't happy with that weld at the bottom, so what I did was I went to the top, so you guys can see that, to the top of that, and I just welded it. It's perfectly good now, perfectly perfect now, just kidding. But yep, so that's where this plate comes in. This is what I just made just now, and this plate kind of connects from this top piece to this piece. When I fully weld it, it'll be welding this and that together. And then this is, since this is so tall now, I have it bracing up to the frame up here, and I don't think I'm gonna put any plating down here. I don't know if this is gonna stiffen anything up if I put a plate here, so I just kind of left it here just in case dirt gets in there, it can come out. But I'm just gonna weld that fully up here, down here, and then over here on the tube side. May or may not do it on the back side as well, like back here behind the plating. That'll make it extremely strong. I am definitely gonna do it. There is also a little spot where I could put some weld up here. I think I can see it from the top. Oops. I did also put this is also like extremely maxed out, so I accidentally just smacked into my track bar. So if I raise the other side, it goes up even more, as long as I lower this side a little bit. But you can see, you can't see the track bar back there. It's about like an 1/8 inch away from the top of the axle, and I'm extremely happy with how high this is going, or able to go. Obviously I am running the bushings in the back radius arms, so it's not going to be able to flex as much, but going straight up and down it will be. And I am definitely going to replace those bushings with either heim joints or the heim joints with the bushings in it, I guess, silicone in it, so better dampening. So So this does also give me enough room to put trusses back here. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'll put, not a truss, but like a support things back there. You can see the frame over here, and I am going to replace these with the same type of heim joint that I want to use for either a heim joint for the track bar, or the same type as that I'm going to use for the radius arms, so I can get more flex later on. Because since these are bushings and they kind of have to be perfectly aligned from that side to this side in order for these bushings to last long. Obviously, if they're sideways like this or angled in any sort of way, the angle, when the suspension travels up and down, the angle is just going to keep putting more and more pressure on the rubber here, and it's over time it's just going to ruin the rubber really fast, and then I'm gonna start getting death wobble. So that's where heim joints are a lot better, because you can have one like back here and then have one on that side on the opposite side, and they'd still connect because of the travel or the angle that the heim joints have. So a lot better. What was I going to show you up here? Yep. So that's where I'm going to fill in with the little welds as well. This also allows me, I am gonna cut this corner off, because when this was in here, when it was down there in the actual bracket part, I wasn't actually able to adjust or tighten this nut, the locking nut, with my wrench. So cutting this will hopefully allow me to get a wrench in here to tighten that fully. So yeah, the other side clears fine, but this side is just weird for some reason. Yep, this axle is also gonna have to come out one more time so I can weld better in all those spots. For now, it's just gonna be like this, and then once it comes out, I can also just completely weld this up. Actually, I could weld it up fine with the axle under it, but it's going to be a lot better with the axle out, and I do have to replace that bushing still. They finally got delivered, so I'm going to be replacing that, and then the axle is going to need to get painted. However I'm going to do that, I don't know, but yep. Right now I've already cut the steel tube for the drag link, and I had this at 26 and I think about 20, I think it's like 26 and 5/8 in length, but it doesn't matter because I have my high steer arm right there, and if you guys are going to go off my measurements, it's not going to be accurate. So make sure you guys measure if you guys are doing this. Measure on your own truck. But I have everything tacked up on this side and that side, and I steered the truck to the passenger side without without power steering, and it's kind of hard, so I want to see what it does with power steering. So I have the battery charger hooked up to my battery because my battery is completely dead, and I'm definitely gonna have to replace that battery soon, because I've been tacking all this stuff on the frame and everything, or mostly this and welding. I think I welded this up with the battery still connected to the truck, so not a good thing to do. You don't want to have the battery connected when you're welding on the frame or grounded out to the frame or anything. It's really bad for the battery. And then also my battery's lost charge over time for about like 5 or 6 times. It's been a while, so I'm charging it just so I can start it up and try to see if I can steer with a hydraulic steering. Right now I think I did get really lucky, because this steering arm that I got off eBay is actually about like 1 to 1.5 inches longer than my stock one. My stock one was probably about like right here where my finger is. And what happened is, if this is longer and then that's supposed to be short on the shorter side, just so it kind of counteracts itself. All right, so truck's still charging. I didn't hook up the leads properly and it wasn't actually connected, so there we go. I waited like 15 minutes for nothing. What else? I'm just gonna weld these in while that's charging, because I know it works already. And what I did was I measured the thread. This is what I did with all these tubes. I measured the thread length, and I put this not lock, but the sleeve part. I put the end of that, the front part of that, I had it halfway up. So this was exactly 3 inches in thread. So it was like about right there. And from here to here would be 1.5 inches. So I did the same on both sides. And just a little tip for you guys. I'm not really good at welding in any way. I'm still learning, but I'm still learning a lot. But I did find that I've had really good luck making these chamfers and all these tubes that I've made so far. But what I did was I just started cleaning them a bunch when I was doing it a while back. I didn't really clean metal that well, so I had really bad welds. But now I've been cleaning them and I've been chamfering these tubes like that, so that I can fill in this valley with weld, and it makes it so much stronger. And I also do plug welds on all of them, except for the top radius arm links, because I forgot to put those there, so they don't have it. Luckily for me, they're not under a ton of stress, so that's luckily for me. Yeah, I did, however. Oh crap, that brake cleaner still works. I mean, still brake cleaner in there. But I did most of them, besides the top radius arm links. I did drill a 1/2 inch hole in this. What I did was I did it at work. We have a 1/2 inch drill, obviously, so I drilled through both sides. This one, I don't want to wait till Monday to get this drilled, so all I did was I cut this with a Sawzall, and then I made this jig here with my grinding wheel. So I just kind of clamped it to the table. That's not moving anywhere. So if you guys want like a table spinning thing, there you go. Just be safe about it. I mean, you could make a jig. There's 2 screw holes on both sides. You can make a jig. I know there are some that holds these. Anyways, it's not plugged in, but I turned this on, and that's how I made the chamfers. I just kind of rolled it on here. I just cut it with a Sawzall. What did I do? I use this like, I got this cheap drill press from Harbor Freight. Super cheap. None of my drills worked for it. Actually, that's a lie. This drill that I got from Lowe's, it's got like a center or a lead tip in there, which is smaller, so it helps me drill the hole a lot faster and easier. All of these millibits and these drill bits they were from Harbor Freight, and from my experience, the Harbor Freight drills and stuff like absolutely suck. So from now on, I'm just going to either I'm buying actual good brand drill bits and stuff, not from Harbor Freight. I mean, their equipment is okay, but the tooling, not so much. So I had to use this step bit to make the holes on this one, which is why you can see they're kind of chamfered in a little bit. So they're not really, that inside hole's not quite 1/2 inch, but it does chamfer out, so hopefully it'll work fine. And it's a good thing I didn't make it 1/2 inch. on this side because I tapped it too far back. This thing goes in about an inch. Yeah, it goes in about an inch into the tube, and I tapped it a little too far back, and you can see that little gap right there on the tube on both sides. So I'm gonna try to tack that in, and like I try to tack it in and just cover it up, and hopefully this thing's able to thread straight through that. It's not too big of a gap, so we should be fine. We'll see. But this side, we're all good. On this side, a-okay. Just this one. I should have just measured it out first and then tapped it, but I kind of just went for it.